The NFL draft is right around the corner, and this is a loaded wide receiver class with some controversial opinions. Let's hop into my top 5 rankings, and then, of course, as always, at the end of the video, a tier list of the top 10 or so. My wide receiver 1 in this class, which may be controversial to some, is wide receiver Makai Lemon out of USC. His physical profile, 5'11", 192 pounds with 8 3/4 inch hands. He did not run a 40 time, and he had a 65 athletic score. Last year at USC, the guy had 79 catches for 1,156 yards and 11 touchdowns. And when I went back and watched the tape, man, Makai Lemon just jumped off the page to me as an NFL level wide receiver. This guy to me screams Deebo Samuel meets Amon-Ra St. Brown meets a little bit of JSN, if we're being completely honest. I do think that ultimately, similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Makai Lemon will find his home in the slot at the NFL level, but it's not because he can't compete on the outside. He absolutely plays above his size, and if you put a ball in his radius, it is likely coming down his direction. However, I just think his skill set at the NFL level is going to be better utilized in the slot, similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is insanely talented in open space, very hard to tackle. I'm not sure I saw a catch all year in which this guy was brought down by the first defender that got there, unless it was two defenders converging on the guy. He was just absolutely shifty and absolutely hard to bring down, and he has that toughness similar to other USC wide receivers like Amon-Ra. Swiss Army knife, you can line him up in the backfield, get him on bubble screens, whatever you got to do. And I know it was at the collegiate level, but this guy's just an absolute playmaker, and USC found numerous different ways to get him the ball, and I think at the NFL level, whichever team drafts him will be best served to do so as well. Crispy routes, way better deep threat than you would think, way better contested catch guy than you could think. Again, you look at the physical profile, and I think a lot of people are going to go, maybe this isn't the guy. You might have to put him in just the slot. He doesn't have crazy breakaway speed. He doesn't have crazy big hands. But ultimately, when it comes to the best wide receiver in this draft class, to me, the tape doesn't lie. It is Makai Lemon. Now, there are some weaknesses to his game. Again, does he possess the physical traits to go one-on-one with a Christian Gonzalez on the outside and be successful? Probably not. Do a lot of NFL wide receivers have those traits? I don't think so. He doesn't exactly have breakaway speed or explosiveness either. This isn't a guy that's probably going to get a 70-yard touchdown on a deep route, but this is a guy who, and I know that I've said it time and time again, but the comparison is there. Similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown, similar to Deebo Samuel, you get him 5, 6, 7 touches in a football game, and he is going to push that 100-yard mark time and time again. My projection for him is to be a top 10 to 15 pick. If you let a team like Baltimore or let like the Rams at 13 or 14 get this additional weapon in their offense, they are going to be scary, scary good. Me personally, I'd start talking about him for maybe even Tennessee at 4, Cleveland at 6. Certainly, I think Makai Lemon could be a real difference maker and a real number 1 threat in a receiving game for an NFL offense. At number 2, again, probably a bit controversial, but I have Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Physical profile, 6'2", 203 pounds, 9 1/8 inch hands, didn't run a 40 time, but the athlete score was 80. Last year at Arizona State in some limited action because he did miss some time with injury, 61 catches for 711 yards and 8 touchdowns. In 2024, this guy again did miss some time, but had 75 catches for 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. Before we talk about strengths and weaknesses, we'll get to the elephant of the room. Yes, Jordan Tyson has massive injury concerns. From 2022 to 2025, he was injured every single year. Knee, collarbone, hamstring, you name it. This guy had dealt with injuries at the collegiate level. There is no denying that there. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I could diagnose him. But I will say this. 1, all the injuries were different. You know, it's not like some same nagging injury year after year after year kept getting this guy. A hamstring injury and a collarbone injury doesn't really have much relation to me. Kind of unlucky, and maybe he is just a bit of a fragile player, and you do have to worry about that, of course, at the NFL level. I'm not saying that you don't, but that's why I have him at number 2 and not at number 1, because when you watch the tape and you watch this kid play, to me, he is the best talent at wide receiver in this draft. I dinged him down to number 2 because of the injury concerns. But for me, the upside for Jordan Tyson is just too high to have him any further down. He, to me, is a little bit of Odell Beckham Jr. and Drake London in one guy, where he does have the size and he does dominate you. The hand strength is there, but similar to Odell Beckham Jr., it feels like all these contested catches can be made. The route running is absolutely crispy. To me, he's the most dynamic wide receiver in the draft. Complete total package, great at the high point, great in the screen game, especially good in the red zone or around the goal line as a receiving threat as well. Jordan Tyson is really just an absolute stud. You have to worry about the injuries, there's no doubt about it. But to me, if this guy had a healthy, clean slate, we would be talking about him as a consensus top 5 pick in the draft. That's how much I believe in the talent that is here. It's just a matter of, can you get him to stay healthy on the football field? But for me, if I was drafting for my football team, and especially we'll talk about the guys that I have ranked below Tyson, but because of the ceiling that he possesses, where I think Jordan Tyson has top 5 wide receiver in the NFL upside, I would take the risk on drafting him in the first round, in the top 15 picks, because the reward will be worth it if he pans out. Trust me on that. And maybe a little too far down for some of you, but at number 3, I have Carnell Tate out of The Ohio State University. Physical profile, 6'2", 192 pounds, 10 1/4 inch hands, which is really, really solid. Great hand size on Carnell Tate. 4.53 40-yard dash, a 65 athlete score. Last year at Ohio State, he had 51 catches for 875 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's 17 yards per catch, and he did miss 3 games. Listen, Carnell Tate is a really strong outside wide receiver, and we're going to talk about the tiers at the end of the video, but would I be mad at a team like Tennessee for selecting Carnell Tate number 4 overall because they feel like they more so need an outside wide receiver than a guy that could be in the inside? No, I wouldn't be mad at them. I'd understand it, especially because it's a safer pick than Jordan Tyson when it comes to his injury history, and you were trying to create the best situation for Cam Ward possible. I would not kill them for that when it comes to the draft reaction recap show. Carnell Tate, massive deep ball threat. He's got good speed. I wouldn't say it's elite great speed, but he does create separation. He is one hell of a, point of catch guy. He can go up there and high point it, contested catch with the best of them. You watch his highlight tape, you watch the film, whatever you want to go do and look it at, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many of these just F it. Carnell Tate down there somewhere, and he goes up and gets it, man. The path for this guy probably is somewhere of like Alec Pierce to T. Higgins at the NFL level. I don't see him being a top 5, probably not even a top 10 wide receiver in football one day, which is why I did put him below Jordan Tyson. But I do think that it's possible he's a wide receiver 1 for a football team that has multiple double-digit touchdown seasons, gets that second contract, and is really good. He's great on the sideline as well. Good feet in terms of getting them in before the boundary. Really good build. Good enough burst to be effective in the screen game. I don't think on a screen he gets that second level and is really going to make it pop at the NFL level, but I think he's got enough initial acceleration where, hey, you throw Carnell Tate a screen, he can get you 5-6 yards. The weakness is, I don't think he's too great in the open field. You get him on a drag or crosser. I don't expect him to make a ton of guys miss. I think the yards just kind of are what they are. He's not a rack guy in that type of way, especially not at the NFL level. To me, the projection, round 1 talent, he's going to be a top 15 pick in the draft. I don't have a doubt about that. And I don't think it's a bad pick whatsoever. Like I said, he does remind me of T. Higgins. Don't see a ton of 10 catch days in his future, but I think he's got a great shot at averaging 15 yards per catch. And as we just saw with an Alec Pierce, that is enough to get you paid big time money at the NFL level. So Carnell Tate, that's my wide receiver 3 in this class. At wide receiver 4, I got Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana University. Physical profile, 6 foot, 198 pounds, 9 5/8 inch hands. So again, some decent hand size there. Ran a 4.42 40, 75 athlete score. Last year at Indiana, the guy had 68 catches for 937 yards and 13 touchdowns. Omar Cooper Jr. is a really interesting prospect to me. I thought that he jumped off the page when it came to watching film and just watching Indiana whatsoever. He is a really effective red zone goal line guy. I think at the NFL level, he's primarily going to be used in the slot with his build, and I think that he will excel in that role, but that is where I have him at 4 here. I don't think, it's similar to Makai Lemon, right? We talked about his most effective role is probably in the slot, but I said you could line up Makai Lemon out the outside, and I think he could be really effective. I think Omar Cooper Jr. would hold his own, but I think you would see a clear dip in production. The slot is really where I see him best at the NFL level. He can make guys miss as a super dynamic athlete, really, really good in the screen game, in end around games. Yeah, there's a lot of guys in this draft class that I feel like are just playmakers, man. You just have to get them the football 4 or 5 times a game and let them work their magic. Omar Cooper Jr. is that kind of guy where if you're going to draft him, you better make sure he gets his touches, because I do believe at the NFL level, he is a breakaway play waiting to happen. And there isn't a lot of guys in this draft class that I think have big play potential consistently from anywhere on the field the way that I feel that way about Omar Cooper Jr. Some weaknesses to his game: he wasn't an RPO heavy scheme at Indiana, and it's kind of one of the knocks of Mendoza, so it kind of transfers over here to Omar Cooper Jr. But the offensive scheme that Indiana ran just isn't an NFL scheme. It's very RPO heavy, very screen heavy. You just don't see that at the NFL level, so you kind of wonder, will his success translate to the NFL level in less opportunities in that system? He doesn't have elite size. Like I mentioned, he's going to be a slot wide receiver. I think that's kind of where he's just going to end up. He's also not a great blocker either. Just little things here. We're talking inches, not miles, when it comes to ranking these top 5 guys. I do still think he's going to be a round 1 guy. Maybe he falls to the back end of round 1, but I don't see him slipping past a team like New England. Certainly not. I think New England would be very happy if he made it to them, because he honestly could be a really big piece of their offense if he fell to them. But I do expect him to go earlier. He's going to be a really fun playmaker for an NFL team. I just don't see him as the lead guy on a really good offense. And then my number 5 wide receiver is Casey Concepcion out of the University of Texas A&M. Physical profile, 6 foot, 196 pounds, 9 1/4 inch hands. Didn't run a 40-yard time, but he does have a 71 athlete score. Last year at A&M, 61 catches for 919 yards and 9 touchdowns. Another guy, 15 yards per catch, just producing at a really high level. But another player that I do believe at the NFL level will be a slot wide receiver. There's going to be some people that tell you Concepcion could play on the outside. And again, would he be a complete failure out there? No, I don't think so. But do I believe that that would be the best use of his talents for an NFL team? I don't. I think the best use would be in the slot. He is an absolute playmaker, and you do have to consider what he gives you as a returner as well, whether that's in the kick return game at the NFL level, because it is so similar to a punt return, or just as a punt returner. We saw him return 2 touchdowns in that spot for Texas A&M last year. The punt return versus LSU was one of the most electric plays of the college football season. He's got really good burst out of slants. Again, that's why I think he'd be a good slot guy, but he's also a sharp route runner in terms of his versatility. I don't know how creative a guy could get with him, whether if he goes to a Kansas City at the end of the first round, what would Andy Reid be able to cook up with this guy? McVay, Shanahan, a really strong offensive mind, I think, would get Casey Concepcion some really interesting touches at the NFL level. And I do believe that that kind of coach, an offensive guru, an offensive schemer, would get the best out of Concepcion because of the weapon that he is. A lot of receivers in this draft class, I believe, are better weapons than they are pure wide receivers. Concepcion falls into that bucket. But again, this is a guy where when you count the kick returns, you count the punt returns, you count a couple screens, get him a slant route here and there, get him a drag, and just get him the ball, I would like to see him get 6 to 8 touches a game personally, because anytime this guy touches the football, it could go for 6. Weakness, again, not elite size to match up against the best outside corners in football. People say that they believe Concepcion could be productive on the outside, but the cornerbacks are just so good nowadays. Surtain, Stingley, Quinyon Mitchell, Christian Gonzalez. Just on a week-to-week basis, I don't see Concepcion being an outside guy. And again, similar to Omar Cooper Jr., not really a great blocker. I would guess Concepcion does get picked at the end of round one. Whatever team gets him probably wants that fifth-year option on him, whether, again, it's at Kansas City or Miami or New England at the end of the first round, or a team trading back up into the end of the first round to get Concepcion. He's a guy worth grabbing because, again, when you factor in those returns, he's going to get you 7 to 8 touches a game, and they're going to be impact plays. So those were my top 5 receivers. Let's kind of dive here into the tier list and break that down. Tier 1, I have Makai Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and I do have Omar Cooper Jr. in that tier. If you ranked those 4 guys any which way, I wouldn't be mad at you, but my personal rankings are as listed. Tier 2, Concepcion, Denzel Boston, 6'4", big size out of the University of Washington. I do think probably more of a wide receiver 2 at the NFL level, but again, a real goal line threat, could get you double-digit touchdowns. And I even have Jacoby Lane in tier 2 because I do think he's just kind of worth the draft pick over the guys that I have in tier 3. Still really young, still 21 years old, played in that USC offense with Makai Lemon, has really solid size to his game, 6'4", ran a 4.4 40. In-game speed didn't look quite as good, but again, worth the pick there. And then tier 3 for me, Skylar Bell, Elijah Surratt. Surratt at Indiana was really, really good with the contested catch, and Bell was just dominant at UConn, but a little bit too old for me to have him in tier 2, a 5th-year player. Brazel has elite size, really good speed at the combine, but again, in game, it just didn't jump off the page to me. And Zachariah Branch, more of a gadget slot guy, but again, similar to what I talked about with Concepcion and Cooper, but kind of at a lesser level, just a weapon that you want to get touches in a football game. As always, guys, these are just my opinions. The draft is right around the corner. I will be doing a live stream for the NFL draft, at least for round 1. So make sure if you love the draft and you want to come hang out, you are subscribed to the channel for that. Leave a like on the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'll catch you next time. Peace.